Yo, yo, yo! Did you know that Studio Trigger was not the first choice to animate Cyberpunk Edgerunners? As a matter of fact, many Japanese studios rejected the idea that the show could even be made at all. In 2016, series creator and executive producer Rafał Jaki went to the head of CD Projekt Red, Adam Badowski, and asked if they could do an anime for the currently in development game, Cyberpunk 2077. CDPR went to Japan and spoke with many studios, but had no concrete story or plans other than, let's just make an anime. A year after their initial trip, Yaki had more of an idea of what he wanted to do with the show. Thinking that a distributor like Netflix would not be able to help them produce it financially, Yaki thought they'd have to basically produce it themselves with their own money. So, he put together a small crew and made a black and white animatic, did all the voiceover themselves, and presented it to CDPR management, who gave them the budget they needed to pursue an anime studio. Yes! Woohoo! In an interview with the Friends Per Second show, Yaki described how the top 10 anime studios in Japan told him he was crazy and that the series he wanted to make was
a live-action project. This is not animation. The tone is super mature, it's quite depressing, and there's a lot of nuance and detail in it.
wah wah. However, despite this initial setback, the show started to get offers from animation studios, and it got narrowed down to two: Production IG and Trigger. Yaki said that the idea was very attractive to have the creators of Ghost in the Shell and Cyberpunk together. The headlines wrote themselves. With Production IG, they're an amazing creative team, but they already had 5 or 6 projects on their slate. But Trigger is very different. One of the exceptions in the industry that they have the same creators in-house for 10 years on employment. They don't do much contract work for anything, and they only produce one show at a time. We decided on Studio Trigger because they were quite similar to CDPR in a sense. They don't really take work for hire stuff. They only do the things that they want. Despite the excitement of having Studio Trigger on board, development of the anime was not as easy as the game developer thought it might be. One of the reasons that Trigger was chosen was for their independent spirit. Yaki said in the aforementioned interview that when they were meeting with the studio, Trigger were the only ones to give them any real feedback. When you meet with potential partners for such a project, sometimes it's very polite and everybody exchanges nice things, but they were the only one actually that really gave me shit for stuff they thought were not there, and I was like, yeah, that I like. Satoru Homa, producer for CD Projekt Red, said in an interview with Netflix that in the 4 years they worked together with the animation studio, they frequently butted heads with Trigger over creative decisions. When Trigger would submit artwork or soundscapes, CD Projekt Red would give them feedback, and there was quite a challenge balancing what would fit in a 3D game versus what would fit in a 2D anime. One of the challenges for Trigger creatively was creating characters that the game developer would accept, but would also work for the anime market in Japan. Character designer Yo Yoshinari said in an interview with Netflix that while David was relatively easy to design, Lucy was a different story entirely. Lucy was a lot more difficult than David. While being a femme fatale character, we still wanted her to be cute, something familiar to Japanese fans. It was very difficult to mix these elements into one character, a character who would fit into a violent setting, but also has the anime charm. As a matter of fact, these creative clashes almost resulted in a character being removed from the show entirely. One character in particular that has since gone on to garner quite the fan base online is a short-statured girl named Rebecca. During an official watch party for the series, Japan-based CDPR producer Saya Elder said, "She's best girl, but I feel a little bit guilty to say it because I was one of the people on the creative team to actually vote Rebecca out of the original cast during pre-production." CD Projekt Red first got the character design for Rebecca and they were like, "She's a loli. Lolis don't exist in Night City. It doesn't fit the Cyberpunk 2077 aesthetic. Trigger, however, was adamant about her staying in the series and simply responded,
No! The lowly must stay!
Thank God for that. Even with all these setbacks, a controversial game launch, and clashes with creative freedom, Cyberpunk Edgerunners did more than most could imagine. In its first week of global viewership, Edgerunners was number 8 in the top 10 most viewed non-English TV series on Netflix, clocking in a massive 14,880,000 hours viewed. As a result of the anime's popularity, the original game upon which the anime was based, Cyberpunk 2077, saw a massive resurgence of activity with over 85,000 players tuning in to play the game on Steam, the highest it had been since the game's launch. The continued success of the anime would help the game reach over 1 million concurrent players in-game per day in the weeks that followed. The wave of popularity that Edgerunners was riding managed to reach the veterans of the gaming industry like Metal Gear Solid's Hideo Kojima, who gushed about the series, comparing it to the Cyberpunk series of his youth, like Cyber City 808. As a 10-year anniversary project for Trigger, many within the studio shared the same sentiment as Kojima, and thus wanted to go all out for the Cyberpunk 2077 anime. The cyberpunk genre began when we were teens, and we're excited to create something in the genre after all these years. Don't miss it. Thanks for watching! We're Did You Know Anime? The anime trivia resource. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube and share this video with all your other chooms out there. If you'd like to follow Alex Cazares on social media, you can find her on Twitter and Instagram at Alex_E_Cazares. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.